Yes, guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. I am Sean Butler. I hope you're all happy and healthy, doing the things you love with those that you love doing them with. Please do me some favors, guys, as we bring to you your Friday morning transfer news, views, and clues on all things Tottenham update. Hit the like button for me if you enjoy the video or if you enjoy the general content. It really does help the channel out, helps the channel find new Tottenham fans that may also enjoy the content. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and even if you have, double check you still are. 50%, 60% sometimes of those that watch the videos are not subscribed or were subscribed but have been unsubscribed. We don't understand why. Hashtag YouTube shenanigans. If that's you, do us a favor, smash the subby. Hit the notification bell and drop a comment. Let me know your thoughts on today's topics. And there's a few of them, and hopefully we're going to bring it through sequentially in order to make the whole story flow and keep the cadence alive. We're going to start out following Thursday night's European football. This is from Football London this morning. And we've got from Josh Holland here, Tottenham gifted Champions League 5th place boost as dream scenario emerges. Tottenham Hotspur have been handed a huge boost in their hopes of securing Champions League football for the 24-25 season following Thursday night's Europa League and Europa Conference League action. The last 16 lineups were confirmed for Europe's 2 competitions last night after the conclusion of the playoff knockout round. I won't go through all those teams that have qualified, but despite the 2 competitions having no significance to the Champions League, the progress of each team will determine which nation receives one of the 2 extra spots for the next season's Swiss League style of the Champions League. Remember, guys, that depending on the countries whose coefficients, the 2 top countries in Europe whose coefficients are at the highest end of it, at the end of this season, at the end of the European campaign, will be afforded the 5th spot or the additional spot in the Champions League. And there's a bit of a battle, a shootout going on between Germany, Spain, Italy, and the UK at the moment. And I think after last night's affair, the UK has been boosted and got themselves into the prime position. Let's carry on with the story. The 2 spots will be given to the leagues that have performed best across all 3 European competitions. I don't know why my screen is jumping. Italy and Germany. The reward for the extra spots will be decided by coefficient points, as I've just said. Italy and Germany still hold those 2 positions, but England's hopes of overtaking the Bundesliga were handed a huge boost thanks to Belgian side Union Saint-Gilloise. After being held to a 2-2 draw with German side Eintracht Frankfurt in the first leg, they claimed a 2-1 victory at the Deutsche Bank Park to knock Frankfurt out. The Premier League are closer to Germany than they are to Italy in the coefficient table, and Frankfurt's exit works in their favour. Teams receive bonus points for getting to certain stages, though the Conference League doesn't offer them any until the semi-final. So it says here, as the story goes on, Bayern Munich, RB Leipzig, and Dortmund all remain in the Champions League, although they all failed to win in their first leg of their ties. Leverkusen and Freiburg are in the Europa League last 16. The Premier League has 6 participants across Europe's 3 competitions, down from 8. Manchester United and Newcastle bowed out at the group stage. Tottenham will need another strong round from their league rivals in the last 16 if they are to have a chance of playing Champions League football next season. Arsenal will have to overturn a 1-0 deficit against FC Porto, while City already have 1 foot in the quarterfinal after defeating Copenhagen 3-1. Look, it's interesting, guys. It's a fascinating kind of situation to find yourself in where you're somewhat hoping that all of your league rivals do well in the competitions in order to give you the better chance of finishing 5th. And if they go deep, then obviously that's an increased distraction for them in the Premier League, which helps you out. Teams like Aston Villa going deep in the Conference League, playing the extra 6 or 7 games that they'll have to play. There's obviously a midweek distraction. It increases their fatigue and hinders their stamina. So you want them to go as far as possible, but obviously you don't really want them to win because you don't want your league rivals having an additional trophy cabinet space occupied. So again, with Arsenal specifically, would you rather Arsenal get knocked out by Porto next week if it meant that Tottenham didn't qualify for the Champions League? I don't know. You know, do you wish and root for your rival's demise, your arch enemy's demise, more than you wish for Tottenham's success? Or do you feel differently about it? Let me know in the comments. But in any event, with Aston Villa, one of the favourites, if not the favourite to lift the Conference League, Liverpool surely one of the favourites despite their injuries to lift the Europa League, and Manchester City, I think, the favourite to lift the Champions League. You would imagine that as these tournaments progress, that the coefficients should benefit England, and therefore by proxy should benefit Tottenham if we can finish in a stronger fashion than our last couple of games have probably shown. I said on yesterday's video, guys, that I still believe that Tottenham are capable of finishing fourth. I think that those last 4 or 5 games before the final 2 against Sheffield United and Burnley, that tough round of fixtures, I believe we will see our best version of football as long as we can stay relatively injury-free. I think that some of the best versions of ourselves this season have come against that lot. And so I think that we can have a really strong finish to the season. I think Aston Villa will be distracted. I'd probably say Aston Villa's football this year has deserved fourth more than ours, considering their form has been, pretty significant and they've dominated a lot of teams. And Manchester United, look, they're catching us up, but they haven't put together a good 90 minutes at all this season from my memory. So it'll be a fascinating encounter into the last kind of 3 or 4 games, and we'll see what happens. But our Premier League rivals somewhat doing us a favour, and so are Union St. Gauloise. If we were to get to the Champions League, then obviously, guys, it's going to help us with a boosted and bolstered budget for the window. And the next story here today is a little bit about the last window. So how you can see the seamless transition into the next story here. Tottenham fearless under Daniel Levy in the worst transfer window as rivals are scared to spend. This is from ex-Tottenham goalkeeper Paul Robinson. He says, despite what the pundit called possibly the worst transfer window we've ever had, with clubs everywhere scared of breaching FFP rules and the market grinding to a halt, Spurs went out early and landed Timo Werner on a £15 million loan to buy deal from RB Leipzig before buying Radu Dragusin from Genoa for £26.7 million on the 12th of January. They still went looking for a big money deal for Antonio Nusa after that and subsequently beat Barcelona to agreeing a deal for Swedish wonder kid Lucas Bergvall. And after finance guru Kieran Maguire named Spurs under Daniel Levy as the best run business in the Premier League, Robinson believes the winter window was proof, but warned that success on the pitch has to follow. He said, look at the last transfer window. It was possibly the worst transfer window that we've ever had. It was a real damp squib because everybody is scared of the FFP rules and everybody wanted to toe the line. Nobody wants a points deduction. Nobody wants to get in trouble. But you look at Tottenham, because of the way that the clubs run, they went out straight away, went and got their 2 players, including Timo Werner on loan and Dragusin for free. They got 2 players in through the door before the Premier League ball had been kicked. And a good, well-run, sustainable business off the field now is and should be just as important to fans as what's going on the pitch. And this is a point I've been making for a long time, guys. All the way through my tenure as a Tottenham Hotspur content creator, I've been reminding people that it's, as much as people don't care about the business side of football, I very much do. And you can find out about that by going to Sean Butler TV, link in the description where we talk about the business side of football across the broader spectrum. But for me, it's so important to keep one eye on the business side because ultimately it does dictate your ability to do what you do on the pitch. That doesn't mean that Tottenham shouldn't be absolutely pushing for better on the pitch, but when it comes to off the pitch stuff, we've got one of the best, if not the best guy in the business at our club to do it. But with a well-run business, with a sustainable business, with the richest club in London, there has to come success on the pitch. That has to follow suit. And I completely agree. It has to be the next thing. Next season, we really need to do better in all the competitions and all the fronts that we are on. And hopefully, as I say, if we can finish top 4, top 5, if it gets to the top 5, thanks to our European coefficient system, then Tottenham not only will have a boosted budget, a boosted transfer window kitty to go at, but also with the ongoing FFP issues, not just in the Premier League, but the PSR rules in the Premier League and the FFP rules around Europe, there will be some, hopefully, fingers crossed, some unbelievable opportunities to do business, to lean into the distresses, the financial distresses that other clubs face, and Tottenham can take advantage. That's why I thought it was so important not to get hold or not to go and test the water with a monstrous, unbelievable bid for Conor Gallagher in January. I think that ship hasn't necessarily sailed, and we're going to be talking about that in just a second. In fact, let's just, here we go, this particular story. Massive player set to snub new deal as Spurs consider a summer bid for him. A £60 million star is apparently not interested in signing a new contract with his club, which comes as Tottenham consider making a summer bid for him. This is from Football Fancast. Not sure of where they're getting their source from. According to recent reports, Spurs appear to be very determined to sign English stars as links surround a plethora of the country's best talents. Indeed, the likes of Chelsea's Conor Gallagher, Bournemouth Lloyd Kelly, and Everton star Jarrad Branthwaite stand out as some of Tottenham's rumoured transfer targets from the past few weeks, while there are also suggestions they're in the mix for Brentford striker Ivan Toney. If we scoot down, though, it says here, Let's have a look at what Ange Postecoglou has said. Sorry, I'm jumping all over the place. Not only do the aforementioned have proven Premier League experience, but they also have to help balance the homegrown quota. Ange Postecoglou, speaking last year, explained the importance of bringing in homegrown players over the next few windows. It's not just about this window, but where you will find yourself in the next couple of windows, said Postecoglou on Spurs' transfer policy. There has to be a strategy behind it. You've got some under 21 players who in the next couple of years will not be able to fit under that criteria. I'm really keen on building a team here, so we don't want to see as much movement as there has been in this window in the next 2 or 3. To do that, we're trying to build a squad that isn't going to require too many adjustments. And part of that is knowing that we need a homegrown quota so we can fill that in, whether that's with players coming from the academy or within the league. I think that's important. And this is where the story goes back to that £60 million player who wasn't keen on signing a new contract. According to Jones, Tottenham are contemplating a summer bid for MARC Guehi, who would also count as homegrown given his English status. As well as Spurs, Arsenal, Chelsea, Man United, Liverpool are also said to be in the mix for him, and it is believed he would not be interested in the idea of a new improved deal at this stage. His current contract expires in 2026, meaning Palace have a few limited windows to sell for a high price. 60 million is the fee they'd apparently entertain. And it will be interesting to see who wins the race for his signature. Look, guys, I'd be very, very, very surprised if Tottenham were to go after MARC Guehi. I feel like this is a bit of an old story, even though it's the guy Jones here is repeating the same thing. I feel like we're not necessarily going to be looking for someone of his expense, his caliber, his character to come in and play rotation. MARC Guehi, does play on the left. He's a right-footed, left-sided centre-back at times. But look, maybe it will happen, and it would be fantastic if we could have it, if we had the money, if we had the budget to get that sort of deal over the line, and that also not preclude us from going after what we need, in my opinion, in the middle. We need a 6. I believe a 6, although Postecoglou maintains that he wants to get away from this idea of individual specific players, and he likes players that are versatile. I think we've got a little bit too much versatility and not enough specificity, pardon the pun, I say it all the time, in this particular squad. Anyway, guys, what we're going to do, we're going to move on to the next story here, which is coming from Football Insider. Another exclusive, more exclusive than Bugsy Malone's OnlyFans account. Pierre-Emile Hojbjerg won't be at Tottenham next season, according to sources. Tottenham do not expect Pierre-Emile Hojbjerg to be at the club next season. Sources have told Football Insider the club were willing to let the midfielder depart last summer and in the January transfer window, but they wanted a permanent exit rather than a loan. Football Insider has learned that a move in the next transfer window is highly likely amid strong interest from Serie A clubs. It is said by a source with knowledge of his situation that he won't be at Tottenham Hotspur next season. It's believed the Lily Whites value Hojbjerg, whose current deal expires at the end of next season, at between 15 and 18 million pounds. Despite not featuring Nan Postecoglou's long-term plans in N17, the Denmark international has racked up 27 appearances in all competitions this season, but just 8 starts. Look, for me, I personally do think that he is going to move on. However, what I would say is with Pierre-Emile Hojbjerg, it's the constant chicken and the egg. You can't force him to accept a move to a team he doesn't want to go to. He has 1 year left on his contract, and I don't particularly want to see a situation where he winds his contract down or he wants to go out on loan or something like that. Other clubs will be aware of the situation, but Pierre-Emile Hojbjerg believes, and he's very much entitled to do so, that he should be playing at the very top table for a very top team. And given his caliber, given his international pedigree, given the fact that he's been such a kind of solid player, a reliable, available player for Tottenham over the last 3 years since he's been here, you can understand why he doesn't want to drop down to the lower level. The problem for me with this story is that not many of the teams that are of the caliber that he believes he's at either need him or want him or can afford him around Europe. I don't believe he'll get into necessarily any particular team that's better in the Premier League. If you remember, there were rumours for him going to Fulham last summer. That didn't materialize because he didn't want to go. He wanted to go to Atletico Madrid, but they didn't have the money. Juve also showed an interest, but they don't have the money. Maybe there's some sort of arrangement that can take place where Tottenham can go after one of their players, like Matheus Soule, for example, the kind of wide man. The next, Angel Di Maria, who looks an absolute unbelievable talent, the Argentinian guy at Juve. Or if it's Samuel Illing Jr., whoever Tottenham are looking for in that regard. Juventus have usually got an option that Tottenham are interested in. And maybe Tottenham can strike some sort of deal that doesn't exactly involve a player exchange, because those things are very difficult to do. But maybe you can kind of organise the deals individually, similar to what Tottenham did with James Maddison and Harry Winks last summer. But for what it's worth, Football Insider, for me, every time they put out a story now, it's called an exclusive, and they've kind of diminished all of their value as a source because they just say according to sources familiar with the situation, and that means absolutely nothing. But guys, if we are talking about players that could come in and play in that midfield role, at the moment there's so many stories linking Tottenham to players that are central midfielders, whether they're sixes, whether they're eights, whether they're a combination of all of them, then a day can't go past without the story percolating around Conor Gallagher. We've already mentioned him on this particular video. Let's not shy away from it one more time. According to The Sun, that brilliant outlet of truth and entertainment, Tottenham are absolutely convinced about signing Conor Gallagher as Chelsea's transfer stance is revealed. This came out yesterday. Tottenham are convinced that signing Conor Gallagher from Chelsea this summer would be a great move. The England international 24 is set to extend his Stamford Bridge deal, which will run, is yet to extend his Stamford Bridge deal, which will run out in the summer of 2025. Ange Postecoglou is on the hunt for a midfielder, with Spurs looking at another season without silverware. The Aussie wants an all-action star, an imposing presence in the middle, but who could alternate with James Maddison in a more advanced position if required. Gallagher fits that profile, and Chelsea have previously indicated they are willing to do the deal at the right price. And transfer target Dean Jones, the same guy as we spoke about earlier, has spelled out how Spurs are keen on Chelsea's homegrown star. He said Tottenham are absolutely convinced that he's the kind of dream number 8 that they are after. So from a playing style and personality on the pitch, Conor Gallagher really does fit the ethos of where they want to take this team. I'd say things that go against it at the moment are the fact that Conor Gallagher is Chelsea through and through, and that does sometimes play into whether a player will be willing to join. I'm not ruling out that he would join Tottenham, but it's something to consider. Essentially, nothing new here. I'm not entirely sure if this particular quote, even though they're using this information, whether or not it's brand new, because Dean Jones today is responsible for 2 stories that are very old regarding Tottenham, yet that are in the newspaper this morning. Maybe he needs to get some fresh ideas, Mr. Jones. Anyway, look, for me, Conor Gallagher, as I said, all summer and all January, all January. In the summer, I was very much on board with it. These days, I go back and forth. I can't make my mind up. I lean towards no because of his recent form and the fact that we're helping Chelsea out of a rut with their FFP situation if we were to pay top dollar. But you know what? Come the summer, come with new ingredients, new variables into the negotiation, and maybe Tottenham can lean into Chelsea, because bear in mind that according to the reports from the TalkSport football finance guy, whose name escapes me, they need to get their job done, their business done before June the 30th, before the end of this financial year. And with Conor Gallagher probably going to the Euros as well, maybe there'll be an opportunity, a very tight window for something where Tottenham can lean in and negotiate hard and help Chelsea out to a degree, but also get value for money out of a player that, listen, maybe he doesn't want to come to Tottenham, but maybe one conversation with Postecoglou and all those things can change. It's worked before, hasn't it? Let's move on to the next story, guys. Tottenham Hotspur are keen on signing James Garner from Everton at the end of the season. A report from Football Insider claims that Everton value the player at 20 to 25 million, and Spurs will have to pay the asking price if they want to secure his services. Homegrown player, defensive midfielder / centre-back, can sort of play utility again. Maybe that's part of the reason why Tottenham are being linked with him. A utility player that is talented, that also is that also has the homegrown number. We've already mentioned Postecoglou's, liking and desire for those sorts of combination or cocktail of players. Look, he's a very good player. I like him. He's young. He's 22 years old. He is a strong tackling, tough tackling defender. Not massive fan. I don't think he's got a huge passing range. He gets, for what it's worth, when he does pass the ball, he does get involved in goal creating actions and shot creating actions. I haven't got the stats up in front of you, but I did look at them before, so please trust me on that. But like I say, he does do all the job that you might want to see him do from a defensive point of view, but I'm just not mad about the player's passing range just yet. And I wonder whether or not the transition from what Everton are asking him to play to the way Tottenham will play, where he'll be kind of left sometimes by himself and have to cover a lot more ground. I'm not entirely convinced if he's the guy. So not an exciting one for me. And I'm not even sure if there's any truth to the links, other than the fact that he kind of suits the criteria in the fact that he's versatile and homegrown. I'm going to get through the last ones, guys. We're talking a lot about midfielders today. One of the midfielders, I didn't bring this to you the other day, but one of the midfielders that has hit out at rumours of a Tottenham deal is Frankie de Jong, dispelling the rumours, saying basically it's not true, and he finds it somewhat insulting. Where is the quote? Can I find the quote? He didn't talk about Tottenham specifically, but he says, a lot of stuff that is not true has come out. I can't understand it. People reporting lies. It's irritating me a little. De Jong remarked, as quoted by ESPN. His eye was particularly drawn to fabrications surrounding his salary, vehemently denying the inflated figures being bandied about. People were saying that he was earning 700 grand a week, 40 million quid a year, whatever it is. He said that's absolutely not true. Well, there is some truth to the idea that he is currently getting paid a lot more money than he normally is earning, but that's because Barcelona had to defer his salary last year because of their financial issues and are now trying to play catch up with regards to that. So he's getting paid maybe double what he would usually get paid. But in terms of his actual salary, his salary on the books, I think it's closer to 250 grand a week, which is still a lot of money for a very, very good player. But for me, he's one of the best, if not the best, passer of the ball in terms of midfielders in world football this year. I think he's been absolutely sensational, and the stats will back it up. He's in the top 99th, 98th, or 97th percentile for everything you could want to look at from a passer. I think he'd be fantastic at Tottenham, but it's not going to happen in all likelihood. Before we move on to this particular story, let's actually talk about it for a second. The last couple of stories for the day for you guys is that Tottenham could look to re-sign Kyle Walker-Peters. When we sold him to Southampton in 2020 for £12 million after a successful loan, there was a purchase to a right to buyback fee of £30 million inserted into the contract. And look, he's done well at Southampton. And Tottenham apparently keep getting linked with him because of his versatility. Again, can play on the right, can play on the left, and has played inverted fullback. For me, personally, guys, he's not worth £30 million a player that plays in the Championship. He's doing well in the Championship. I've got questions as to why he didn't want to leave Southampton when they got relegated last season. Was it loyalty that kept him there? Was it he was comfortable there? I'm not sure. You could look at it as a positive or a negative, but the fact of the matter is that he might have been playing very well this year, but he's been playing very well in the Championship. And we've seen enough times players that do absolutely wonderful things in the Championship, but then when they come back to the top level, they're just not quite there. And you know, Harry Winks is an example, obviously. Ollie Skip, I think you could point to as well, just looking at Tottenham specifically. I would be very, very underwhelmed if Tottenham were to sign Kyle Walker-Peters for anything like 30 million. I'd be very underwhelmed if we signed him at all, if I'm entirely honest. A good player, don't get me wrong. I like him. I think he's a very good player, but he's not at the level that I want Tottenham to be going after if we're trying to get to the next stage, and to be eating at the very top table on all four fronts. For me, Kyle Walker-Peters, a good player, but not exciting enough as a prospect. Last couple of stories for you guys. We've done the Conor Gallagher one. This is a nice one for you. Liverpool and Tottenham Hotspur are two of the leading suitors for Atalanta midfielder Toyin Koopmeiners, who they might be able to stop joining another Serie A club, according to reports. Koopmeiners is a candidate to be sold by Atalanta this summer for big money, much like Manchester United strikers Rasmus Højlund became last year. The Netherlands international is currently enjoying his third season in Serie A, but his market value may be too high for Atalanta to rule out selling him. According to Calcio Mercato, Liverpool and Tottenham are both in the front row when it comes to the race to bring Koopmeiners to the Premier League for the first time in his career. They are both aiming to hijack a deal that would see him move elsewhere within Serie A, since Juventus have been showing an interest in signing him. The only way Juventus could afford Koopmeiners, though, would be to send Matheus Soule in the opposite direction as a counterpart. Listen, Matheus Soule, different type of player for me to Koopmeiners, but a wonderful talent. I'm interested in Soule. I really like the guy. I'm also very interested in Koopmeiners. So if there was like a bit of a round robin where Tottenham could somehow, you know, get hold of Koopmeiners, maybe Juve could get hold of Pierre-Emile Hojbjerg from Tottenham, maybe Matheus Soule could come in a different direction. I'm not sure how that would all work out, but let's be honest. If Liverpool and Tottenham both come calling, do you choose the Tottenham project or do you choose the unknown new project under Liverpool? We'll have to wait and see. Liverpool will have, you know, I think whoever Liverpool decide as their next manager will have a lot to say in that, and also how many of Liverpool's top talent want to leave in the post-Jurgen Klopp era will also have a massive say in that. But for me, Koopmeiners is a really, really interesting, very clever player. I'm a massive fan of him when I've seen him, and I know a lot of you guys love him as well. So we'll find out. But for me, listen, on paper, you generally think if Tottenham and Liverpool are fighting for the same player, generally speaking, it's not necessarily always the case, but the rule of thumb is that they're probably going to pick Liverpool. Luis Diaz comes to mind. Guys, that is it. The only last story for you here is from HITC, which is reminding us of Sevilla's our pursuit for LOIC BADE in the summer. And he was talking about that and reference saying there is a little satisfaction, i.e. he's happy when a big club like Tottenham is interested. It's because you do good things. BADE now tells Estadio Deportivo the 6'3" Colossus is in no rush to bring an early end to his Seville career. However, there are still 3 years remaining on his current deal at the Ramon Sanchez Pizjuan. I like the city. I feel very good here. BADE says if I have to stay here for 20 years, I will. Yes, of course, I can envisage staying in Seville because I'm fine. I'm very comfortable. I don't think the story really had too much merit anyway, even though he's claiming it did. But it's nice to know that he considers Tottenham to be one of the better teams, and that in relative relation to Seville, that it gives him satisfaction to know that a team as big as Tottenham Hotspur are interested. Guys, that's a lot to get through in one particular video. Sorry for the long one, but let me know your thoughts. So it seems to me to be that all of the news right now is now pivoting towards 2 major areas. The midfield situation. I personally think we're looking for a defensive midfielder, but Conor Gallagher stories won't go away. Koopmeiners, interesting. What about Hojbjerg leaving? Does it require, for us to make room for another number 8, does it require an exit of Lo Celso, which has only got 1 year left on his contract? I presume it does. And also Hojbjerg, although I do feel like getting rid of Hojbjerg is not going to be easy, given the guy's lofty ambitions of the standard of football that he himself thinks he demands or deserves. And I don't hate him for it. I think he's a very talented player, and he will be a brilliant player for the right team in the right system. It's just probably not for Tottenham going forward. Lots of things to discuss going into the next 3 months as the season ends, guys. But listen, the Champions League race is very much on, and 5th place might be enough to get there. We just need to make sure that we can overcome at least one of Aston Villa and Manchester United. And if we can play to our very best, then you never know, guys. Good things can happen. Like, subscribe, and comment, guys. And as always, bye-bye.